Distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning and welcome to the 8th meeting of the BIMSTEC subgroup on combating the financing of terrorism. We are now witnessing the arrival of our chief guest, Mr. Arjuna Mahendran, Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. We warmly welcome you to this event, sir. In keeping with our Sri Lankan customs, may I kindly request you to oblige in the traditional lighting of the oil lamp in order to commence the proceedings of the event. We would like to invite with great honor the following dignitaries to light the oil lamp. Mr. Arjuna Mahendran, Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Mr. Karunasena Hettiarachchi, Secretary, Ministry of Defence. Mr. Padmasiri Jayamana, Secretary, Ministry of Justice. Mrs. Deepani Kumarajiva, Legal Draftman. Mr. Sumit Nakandala, Secretary General of BIMSTEC Group. Mr. S. Lanka Tilaka, Deputy Governor, Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Police Major General Ajay Dangampon, Co-Chair of BIMSTEC Subgroup. Mr. D. Wasantha, Assistant Governor of the Central Bank. And Mr. H. Amaratunga, Director, FIO Sri Lanka. Secretary General, Deputy Governor, and Chair and Co-Chair of the BIMSTEC subgroup to resume their seats at the head table. Ladies and gentlemen, may I kindly request you to rise for the national anthem of Sri Lanka. call upon Mr. H. Amaratunga, Director Financial Intelligence Unit of Sri Lanka, to deliver the welcome remarks.
Very good morning, Mr. Arjuna Mahendran, Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, distinguished invitees, Mr. Sumitna Kandala, Secretary General BIMSTEC, Mr. Sunil Lanka Tilaka, Deputy Governor Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Major General Atachai, Deputy Commissioner, Special Branch of Thailand, delegates from BIMSTEC countries, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the FIU Central Bank of Sri Lanka, let me warmly welcome all of you to this highly important meeting of Bay of Bengal initiative for multi-sectoral technical and economic cooperation on countering the financing of terrorism. I wish to state that your presence here today gives us a deep sense of honor, privilege and humility. The 8th meeting of the subgroup on countering the financing terrorism has representation from People's Republic of Bangladesh, the Kingdom of Bhutan, the Republic of India, the Republic of the Union of Myanmar, Nepal, the Democratic Social Republic of Sri Lanka, and the Kingdom of Thailand. The Thailand is serving as the lead shepherd of the subgroup. During the 2-day meeting, it is planned to discuss on implementing the BIMSTEC consolidated list of designated persons and entities, the MOUs on exchange of financial intelligence, Egmont sponsorship, the BIMSTEC subgroup on CFT website, etc. Training and capacity building also will be discussed. It is also on the agenda to see whether the scope of the subgroup should be widened to include money laundering aspect as well from the present mandate of strengthening the cooperation on combating the financing of terrorism. Sri Lanka is a founding member of Asia Pacific Group on Money Laundering, APG, one of the regional bodies coming under the Financial Action Task Force, the global policy set on AML and CFT. Country has been a member of Egmont Group, which is the association of worldwide FIUs since 2009. We have conducted our first ever national risk assessment on AML and CFT during 2014 with the participation of all relevant stakeholders, and currently we are taking actions to further improve our AML and CFT framework according to the recommendation made by the mutual evaluators who conducted mutual evaluation of Sri Lanka in 2014. It is evident, therefore, that Sri Lanka is highly committed to promote countries' AML and CFT compliance in line with international best practices. It is in this background, FIU Sri Lanka has taken right decision to host the 8th meeting of BIMSTEC in Colombo with a very satisfactory level of representation from BIMSTEC countries. Of course, there will be, I think, 30 foreign delegates here. And with the blessings of our governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Mr. Arjuna Mahendran. Sir, your presence here today gives us a deep sense of honor and privilege. We appreciate very much for your acceptance of our invitation to deliver the keynote address despite having a very tight work schedule these days. We are also honored to have us with the Secretary General of BIMSTEC for this function, giving it due recognition and importance. I would also like to take this opportunity to extend my deep appreciation to distinguished invitees for their presence here today. My special thanks go to Major General Atachai, the lead of Thailand delegation, Deputy Governor Mr. Lanka, Assistant Governor Mr. Vasantha, not only for their presence here today but also of their involvement in the working arrangement of this program. Finally, it is with great appreciation I welcome once again the delegates from member countries for taking the time out from their busy lives and the work in their respective jurisdictions to make the effort to attend this 2-day program at our invitation. We are optimistic that you would be able to make the final outcome of the meeting more productive, thereby raising the subgroup of BIMSTEC to a new level of recognition. Let me again, on behalf of our team from the FIU, express our deep sense of appreciation to the Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and the distinguished invitees for gracing this occasion. I wish all delegates who are present here today all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amutganga. Ladies and gentlemen, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, being the apex financial regulator of the country, extends its maximum support towards best international regulated practices. We have hosted many events of this nature which have been platforms for fruitful deliberations. We now most respectfully invite Mr. Arjuna Mahendran, Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, to deliver the keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Mr. Sumit Nakandala, Secretary General of BIMSTEC, Major General Kun Archai, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely privileged to be invited by you here today to address you on the occasion of this BIMSTEC meeting in Colombo, which revolves around the topic of combating illegal transfers of money around the world. This is a very important task. We in this country, Sri Lanka, are acutely aware of how destabilizing some of these illegal fund flows can be. We faced internal conflict in our country for almost 30 years, which was funded essentially by several foreign sources who were seeking to destabilize this country. And it is only in 2009 that we were able to finally eradicate the menace of terrorism. And today this country is trying to now grapple with the challenges of restoring peace and order and resume normal lifestyle. So you are in a country which has seen the scourge of the terrorist activity, terrorist financing. We have around the room several specialists who have deep experience of countering these types of issues. But in the meantime, we have another development globally, which was the global financial crisis of 2008, which in its wake has also brought several new elements into the work that we do. Quite apart from terrorist financing itself, there is now the issue of tax evasion, which several countries in the world are acutely aware of. Since the 2008 crisis, what has essentially happened is that governments have been piling on a lot of debt, and they are finding it difficult to service that debt. And as a consequence, tax authorities in several countries, from the United States all the way to small countries like Sri Lanka and the Maldives, are basically finding that they have to raise more taxes to pay their debts. And as a consequence, we have, in addition to work that we've already done on money laundering and terrorist financing, we have several stipulations that are being brought forward by governments to ensure that monies which move around the world are tax compliant. And this, I think, is a big challenge for all of us, because it means that one has to, in the banking system, in which we as central bankers are directly involved, now a large part of our supervisory activity is now ensuring that banks, when they open accounts or administer accounts of their customers and their clients, have to ensure that they are tax compliant, not just in their own domestic jurisdiction, but in other jurisdictions around the world. So you found that the cross-border regulation of tax compliance has become a significant issue for all of us. And all countries are endeavoring to help each other to ensure that people pay their proper taxes before they basically engage in any sort of economic or financial activity. So this, I think, is a significant challenge for all of us. I've also mentioned the whole aspect of money laundering. We've seen that very glaringly in the last few days and weeks when our colleagues from Bangladesh were faced by a very elementary scam, though it was, I think, done in a very sophisticated manner. The scammers chose to make the transfers from Bangladesh Bank on a Friday when Bangladesh is on holiday and when New York is open, and they were then able to impersonate the signatures and the digital signatures of the relevant officials in the Bangladesh Bank, and the New York Federal Reserve officials were completely taken up by this. And the figures vary, but it looks like close to $1 billion was at stake in this whole operation. And I don't want to mention the countries, but there are several countries in the Asian region from where some of these miscreants are alleged to have been involved in this entire scandal. And I'm sad to say that my dear colleague, Governor Atiur Rahman, has announced his resignation last night as a consequence of this scandal affecting the Bangladesh Central Bank. This is a wake-up call to all of us bankers. I know that all of you in the room are not bankers. We have very veteran bureaucrats, people from the armed forces and the police services, as well as the legal fraternity and civil servants. But banking is really at the core of a lot of these financial misdeeds, because at the end of the day, central banks are the regulators and arbiters of these flows through our system. And this puts a particular responsibility on us in central banks to improve our surveillance systems and, of course, engage with all of you from the other arms of the government to ensure that our countries and our financial systems are not affected by this type of activity, which regrettably, with the digitization and the spread of computerization across all sorts of activity in the business world, means that we have to change the way we do things. You may have heard of the concept of Bitcoin. This is a huge challenge to central bankers worldwide. What it means basically is that money no longer needs to be physically issued as cash. It is now electronic. And if a club of people get together and decide to transact amongst themselves using a artificial currency like Bitcoin, there's nobody to stop them doing that. There are no laws to stop them doing that. But that could mean that it will give them anonymity. Why do they do this? They do it because they want to be anonymous. They don't want people to know who they are. They don't want people to know whether they paid their taxes. And they don't want people to know whether they're using this money for illegal activity. That is the challenge that faces us. If we central banks, and indeed all arms of the government, don't rise up to this challenge and make it a point to learn how to apprehend and regulate this type of activity in the electronic domain, we are going to be left behind. And all sorts of illegal activity is going to flourish globally. So this is going to be a big challenge for us. Of course, the digital world is not entirely negative. There are positive aspects to the digitization of financial flows. So for instance, I have been traveling recently to the Middle East and China, and we are trying to connect our domestic electronic payment systems with those of other countries to facilitate the flow of savings of our workers back to Sri Lanka. It may interest you to know that about 10% of our GDP every year comes back to Sri Lanka in terms of remittances from our Sri Lankan workers all over the world. And to that extent, we also have to necessarily link up and become part of that global ecosystem of electronic payment systems, which facilitate the growth of trade and the flow of money into our country. But of course, the flip side of that is that we then open ourselves to this vulnerability that any miscreant can come into the system and start gaming the system and achieving illegal ends. So that is something we have to be ever watchful about. We in the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, we are delegated by the government, by His Excellency the Minister of Finance, to run the Financial Intelligence Unit, which is the core of the the effort to counter terrorist financing, money laundering, and all sorts of other illegal flows of finance. And we are trying constantly to upgrade our knowledge, our systems. And I think it's very essential that we interact with all of you around the room in order to enhance our knowledge base and also make sure that we can respond rapidly to events as and when they take place. In the Bangladeshi case, it's unfortunate that things were kept under wraps for about a month before it was made public, and it was only made public because the Sri Lankan teller in one of our banks had noticed a spelling mistake in one of those wire transfers, and that's how the whole thing came out into the public domain. It's no point trying to hide these things. I think that the rapidness of our response is absolutely essential if we are going to counter this menace, which is going to grow. There's no question about it in my mind. You're going to have millions of people trying these sorts of scams in increasing frequency, and we just have to gear ourselves to handle those types of events as and when they occur in the future. It's interesting, the whole ecosystem that has evolved around these agencies which run FIUs around the world. I'm quite fascinated by the fact that we, in effect, have a sort of shadow United Nations in the FIU, which actually doesn't have a headquarters or any physical building or anything to its name. It's just a loose alliance of FIU agencies across borders around the world, which are collaborating with each other in a very effective manner, I feel. And this is, I think, a testament to the new way of doing things, where we don't have to fall back on these old big institutional mechanisms, which eventually become bureaucracies and become ineffective. I was very impressed when I went to my first Asia-Pacific group meeting in New Zealand last year, and I found the energy and the vitality that was being applied by the different FIU organizations to their activity, and indeed the collaboration. So we've had a mutual assessment last year of our Sri Lankan FIU by our partners in the Asia-Pacific group, and that has brought about some fascinating insights and also pointed out to us some of the shortcomings in our legal system, in the way our government works. And this, I think, has enriched our view of how potentially we can improve the way we do things. And that, to me, is really a testament to the effectiveness of these sorts of groupings. So this meeting that you're having is extremely important. Don't underestimate the value of these interactions. Eventually, it's the person-to-person contact between each of you that is going to make the effort to combat all these types of illegal financing effective. Because just being able to raise the phone and call somebody on a first-name basis is, I think, much more effective than all the bureaucratic and other systems we can put in place to try and combat illicit financing worldwide. So I commend you to take this message from us in Sri Lanka that the future has huge challenges. The future really is in your hands. You are all probably going to be the most important cogs in the entire financing institutional network in your respective countries going forward, because you are going to be the guardians, the gatekeepers, the people who are going to prevent our financial systems from being thrown in the way of financial fraudsters and other miscreants. So I wish you well in your deliberations. Don't underestimate the importance of what you're doing, and I hope that these meetings will be held regularly and you will develop an agenda which will hopefully define your work plan, not just for the next year, but for several years ahead, and indeed learn from each other, which I think is really, at the end of the day, the proof of the pudding. I thank you very much for inviting me here and wish you all the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Your valuable ideas, including the impact of digitalization, set the perfect atmosphere for this meeting. During the governor's speech, Mr. Karunasen Hettiarachchi, Secretary, Ministry of Defence, joined us. We warmly welcome you to this event, sir. We now cordially invite Mr. Sumitna Kandala, Secretary General of BIMSTEC, to address the gathering.
Good morning. Mr. Mahindran, Honorable Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Mr. Karunasen Hettiarachchi, Secretary Defence, Mr. Lanka Tilaka, Deputy Governor, Major General Attache, delegates from BIMSTEC member states, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to everybody. On behalf of the BIMSTEC Secretariat and my own behalf, let me extend very warm welcome to all the delegations of the BIMSTEC member states who are present here in Colombo for the 8th meeting of the BIMSTEC subgroup on combating the financing of terrorism, which is being held in Colombo, Sri Lanka from 16 to 17 March 2016. The Honourable Governor, the BIMSTEC Secretariat wishes to extend its deep gratitude to Central Bank of Sri Lanka for its generous offer to host the 8th meeting. In fact, Mr. Amartunga may recall that we had initial exchange of views even prior to the 7th CFT meeting, which was held in Bhutan in 2015, about the next course, that is this meeting. In BIMSTEC, we have 14 areas of cooperation, and there are a few areas, few sectors which are making really considerable progress. And I'm happy that Secretary of Defense is here. In fact, one of the very important areas which are making real progress is counterterrorism and transnational crime. All the member states are working very hard. And in fact, Sri Lanka is the lead shepherd for the intelligence sharing. We expect the subgroup on intelligence sharing will be held very soon in Colombo in order to discuss other remaining matters regarding exchange of intelligence information and sharing of intelligence resources. In my message, in fact, I was not able to participate in the 7th SG-CFT, which was held in Bhutan 2015. I said that it is important in devising pragmatic and sustainable cooperation in combating the finance of terrorism. I think this is still one of the most important matters before us. I'm happy between last meeting and this meeting, the member states have been able to identify some of the important human resources development and capacity building under CFT. So this meeting certainly will consider that. That is what we call sectoral cooperation. I think in BIMSTEC, sectoral cooperation is important in terms of CFT, and then we are going to expand the mandate of CFT to accommodate anti-money laundering during this meeting, so which means that our scope, the subgroup scope, will be expanded on numerous things, including some of the aspects the Honourable Governor illustrated in his speech. Unfortunately, I think we cannot simply evade the fact that there is a threat for all of us in terms of course, we have been suffering from the terrorism for 30 years, and we have been collectively able to eradicate that menace in 2009. But the modus operandi of Sri Lankan LTTE in financing terrorism and the modus operandi of the financing terrorism right now are quite different. I think, especially I'm trying to explain how the Islamic State is running its financing. It's like a war economy with diversified portfolios providing them income. They have oil refineries, including mobile oil refineries. And it is very difficult for certain people to crack them down. And Islamic State is the wonderful example of bad side of the negativity of information and communication technology usage. Twitter, Facebook, collecting monies, transferring, and all these things are real challenges for the region, especially Bay of Bengal, and I think this subgroup will certainly focus on that. And I have seen in the agenda there are presentation of case studies on foreign fighters in the region. So we need to be innovative. This is what I said. We need to be innovative. And I also said in 2015, finally, we must continue to be innovative, find new and sustainable means to make it harder, costlier, and riskier for terrorist groups in the region to solicit, raise, and move their funds I think this is what the fundamental premise of this meeting means to BIMSTEC. As it is evident, there are a number of things to be accomplished. Nonetheless, that should be our target and the goal. I wish all the success in your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nagandala, for those vital remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have come to the conclusion of the inauguration ceremony of today's meeting. We are now moving on to the photo session. May I kindly request all the distinguished invitees and participants to proceed to the beachside venue to take the group photograph. Our colleagues from the FIU will direct you to the venue. We are also delighted to invite you to join us for the tea reception after the group photograph. We wish to thank all the special invitees who will not be joining us in the technical sessions for taking time off to be here with us this morning. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We wish this meeting a great success. Have a pleasant day.